So we're at the fourth and final stage, which is managing for impact once it's in your portfolio. So what's that all about?
Right. So along with assisting a company to improve sales or financial performance over time, right? Like any good conventional investor would do, you want to grow your investment, make sure it's healthy. You also want to do that with impact. And so ensuring that your companies in your portfolio have the tools necessary, the support, the social connections, the political connections, all of that that's necessary for their success. And so, we provide, like at BII, but I think a lot of other impact investors do as well, provide a lot of sort of wraparound services to manage impact and make sure that companies are able to succeed on both fronts.
Okay, so what does that look like? What are some of the actual ways of engaging with the portfolio?
Right. So one way, might sound boring, but one way could be financial modeling to help them understand if they're able to pay out, part of their profit sharing plan this year, which is a bonus to employees and a benefit to employees, or if they're able to start getting their employees to living wage. Another thing that's really important, and this is how it kind of ties into the survey process, right? So you gather this information and then you kind of know, and you talk to people, you talk to the companies, and then you sort of know where they are. And then you can move from there. So another piece that's important for us is the participatory management and open book management. And so having companies provide information to their employees, allowing them to participate in some of the big decisions that a company makes, so kind of democratizing the workplace, more worker power, which is core to what we're looking to achieve. But in order for them to do that, if they don't know how to do that, right, they're going to say like, okay, yeah, we get feedback. I have an open door policy. We have team meetings, right? But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about real participation, real power, real insight into how the company's doing. So one way that we, sometimes provide trainings for or refer companies out to trusted partners who also provide trainings on these things, is the participatory management and open book management that helps companies identify which key performance indicators they should be sharing with their employees to help them understand how the business is working. It's a capacity building exercise for the employees, right? The workers now understand, how does this business operate? They start to understand how the owner's thinking. And then if there's a piece where they are also sharing in the profits, if there's a profit sharing, which we also encourage, then they're understanding what the levers are to get there. So that's one example. And the way we learn about whether companies are doing that is through the survey often, or through early conversations. And then we can assess, hey, people sounded interested in this. Let's do a workshop, or let's refer them to our partners.
Okay, so you mentioned some participatory management, open book, profit sharing, anything with workers and their experience at the company? There's CORI, friendly hiring practices. So CORI meaning?
Sorry. CORI is the background check. And I actually don't know if it's specific to Massachusetts or federally, but essentially people who have been involved with the justice system previously, often people who have been incarcerated. So people who are re-entering the workforce or have been in the workforce, but have in the past had encounters with the justice system, that shows up on their record. And so if a company is kind of automatically pulling these reports and saying, oh, every time I'm going to hire someone, now I'm going to pull a report and see if, they've ever had run-ins with the law or they've been incarcerated previously. Oh, I don't hire people like that, right? If it's not absolutely necessary in your line of business, right? There are some businesses where it's, you can't have people who have been justice involved, or there's, certain types of justice involvement that wouldn't allow it. But for the most part, these are very capable workers who need a chance to do great work. And so having businesses, one, understand that you don't necessarily have to run these checks. And if you do, being open to hiring people even that have these records. And we have a couple of businesses that actually, do work with organizations that are helping citizens re-enter the workforce. So people who have been incarcerated previously and then are now re-entering the workforce. And these businesses are saying, hey, these are great workers. We want them to be in our workforce. We're going to provide a supportive environment and our second chance employers. And so there are some that come into our portfolio with that mindset already, and others that we can help them understand it. And we've actually created policies and procedures that have been vetted by our lawyers that companies can put right into their handbook. They can put right into practice that will allow them to move forward on these maybe sort of new ideas to them, but that really, it's an easy fix.
So some of these non-traditional management practices, that really ties back to the sort of investment thesis, investment criteria piece. Like BII has a point of view about what we're trying to accomplish for a particular workforce in the world or in a particular neighborhood or in a community, and trying to make it as easy as possible for the companies in our portfolio to implement those is what you're pointing to.
Yes, yeah. I think that's the piece that, it's the implementation. The intention is great, and we love getting companies that have the intention. The implementation can be sometimes the trickier part. I talked earlier about a company that has really been heavy on hiring male workers, men who are they really haven't hired any women at all. And so we put in an impact covenant to say, hey, you need a recruiting plan. You got to work on this, right? Let's pay attention to it and set up a plan. They don't know how to do that. Not because they're not smart people and not because they're not, really well-intentioned entrepreneurs, but they just actually don't know how to put together a recruitment plan that will target different audiences and recruit different types of people to come and work with them. And so we are working with them and an outside partner that's an HR expert to help them craft a recruitment plan and meet their impact covenant. So if you think about, managing for impact, there's the incentives, but then there's also the how do we steer you towards what our shared stated goal.
So there's a way in which it would sort of be irresponsible as an impact investor to impose a bunch of covenants and not engage actively in the management phase, right? That's completing the commitment.
Right.
So that is what happens when the company's in your portfolio. Mm-hmm. And then there's an exit, meaning maybe they've repaid their loan in full, or someone has sold their company, or somebody's bought your equity position out, and you are no longer in a financial relationship with the company. The company has exited your portfolio. What happens then? Is all the impact over?
Well, you have very little influence, right? After exit or after repayment. And so the hope is there's sort of two ways to think about this. One is instilling the impact in the company in kind of more permanent ways while you're still involved. So that could be like B Corp certification, or actually changing the type of corporation from a C Corp to a public benefit corporation, which actually includes benefit to stakeholders in their incorporation documents, or converting to a worker-owned co-op. Or converting to, include ESOP, employee
stock ownership
plan.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
ESOP, another acronym, employee stock ownership plan. But to have those already embedded in the business is really important. Another thing to consider before you exit, if it's an equity investment, who's taking over afterwards? Who can you introduce this company to, right? As an investor, you're probably and hopefully pretty well connected with the other impact investors in your region, in your space, in the sector that this company is in. So what's the next step for them? And who could you introduce them to that you believe will carry on your or carry on an impact mindset as they consider ownership of this company. So there's the embedding the impact in the business, and then there's figuring out who else can own pieces of the business that would also maintain the impact.
Okay, so Aliana, you have given us a very, very comprehensive view of impact management. It's a semester's worth of material in one little module. Just what advice or what last thoughts do you want to share to folks that are entering into this space and hearing a lot of these concepts for the first time?
Right. Well, I'd say, first off, it is not just measuring impact after the fact. So it is so important to be intentional. True impact investors and rigorous impact investors are setting intention before they even start to raise the first dollar or deploy the first dollar. They have a sense of what their impact is going to look like, and they have mapped it out. And they have mapped it to the investment process. So rather than retroactively counting jobs or counting children educated, right? It's about how are we going to make those jobs happen and make those jobs be high quality, and how are we going to get to the students and children that we want to affect. And so really incorporating it into the whole process, making sure that it's on par with your financial management and impact or investment management. I know this is going to sound radical, but I manage an investment fund alongside the investment director. It is myself, the impact director, and the investment director. It's not, an impact investing associate who thinks about the impact. It's not an outside consultant who thinks about it. It's really incorporated to how the fund is managed sort of from the top.
So I'm so grateful that you said that, because again, it is something that is too often an afterthought. Or it's really considered a piece of marketing and not core investment work. So thank you so much, Aliana, for this wonderful introduction to impact management. And I know there's a lot of depth under all of the work. So there's a chance to dig deeper with a lot of the materials that Aliana referred to alongside this video lecture. Thank you.